when a lot of national people talk about like former players that talk about Lance, I kind of scoff at it. Not with Steve Young. Steve Young is one of the smartest analysts in the league. He played the position. He was with the 49ers. He knows Trey Lance. He's invested. So we're going to go point by point with what he said and give our reaction. First thing, Steve Young says Trey Lance is almost too earnest. This was the first thing he talked about. And he talked about it with Matt Mayoko. Did you catch this? He was saying like basically, he wants to do the job. He's very detail oriented. He's very smart, but he's a perfectionist. And that can be a bad thing if you're too much of a perfectionist. And he pointed to Carson Wentz and Mitchell Trubisky. There's another player that I thought of, but I'm going to get to that in a minute. What did you think of this observation from Steve Young?
Yeah, I thought I was kind of perfect on his point. I mean, it's kind of a little hard to kind of draw that conclusion considering we only saw him play for 2 games. And one of those games, it wasn't really like the offense that was going to be catered to him. But I totally see what he gets about, young quarterbacks not being too much a perfectionist, because you can't have immediately like force a play to go just because your coach called it. You got to, like they say, take what the defense is giving you. Too much is like he wants everything to go right. Like, I got to make this, I got to scramble here and there. I got to chuck it deep or do something to get like the perfect play. When in reality, it's like, no, dude, you just gotta play the offense. Take your time. One play at a time. You're not gonna get everything in one play. There will be those times, but he just can't be too much like everything has to go 1,000% right. So maybe take your time with it. Be okay. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, because the moment you start doing that, you're gonna start thinking. And of all things you're gonna do in sports, especially quarterback, you gotta remove that thinking element. You gotta be playing speed, and being on instincts.
Okay, so what I thought was so interesting is this: is that Steve Young's talking about his personality. He's talking about Trey Lance's personality, his demeanor, and this is something that Steve's gotten to know because he spends all this time with him and talks to him. And it's an interesting thing to say about someone who's like trying to impress Steve. Like he's almost too, like
yeah.
Steve was saying like basically like when I was that age, like I wouldn't give a damn. I'd be more of. I mean, basically what he's describing is the opposite of Jimmy. Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't really act like he cares. He throws an interception, he shrugs it off, he's smiling on the sidelines. Nothing gets to him. And I think maybe that's a bit of an asset for Jimmy, although I think it's too much the way he really doesn't care. The way what he's describing to me is Alex Smith, the perfectionist. He's really smart. He processes, but the wide receiver wasn't quite open enough, right? Oh, you're protecting the football. So he didn't pull the trigger. Guy was open, didn't pull the trigger. We saw that with Alex Smith for a long time. Alex Smith was a very successful quarterback, but not a Hall of Famer. And he wasn't Steve Young. So all the thing he's talking about with Trey, it feels like Alex Smith 2.0. Now, Trey is bigger than Alex Smith was, stronger than Alex Smith was, faster than Alex Smith was. But I think there's a lot of carryover here. And Alex Smith really struggled with the pressure of it all early in his career, to show that he was the right pick, to show that he was worthy of following in the line of Joe and Steve. And you know what I'm saying? I feel like Steve is looking at Trey like Alex Smith 2.0.
Especially since he's seen it all. I mean, he's always been in there around that facility. It's not like he's Joe, where Joe just pops in once in a blue moon. Steve's been there. Steve had his fingerprints there. That's why he told Trey when they had that conversation some months back about, like, he even said it on the radio. Like, I've been here in your steps, whatever, the 10 steps you're looking at, the footprints, like I laid them. So whatever you're going through would not be shocking to me, other than maybe like the social media element. But ultimately, I literally know what you're going through. It's right. A lot of pressure. And if anything, I know more because I had to supersede Joe freaking Montana, which might equate to it because he was a top pick traded for. But still, it's like the situations aren't like that comparable. So that way, at least Steve can actually level with him and actually give him that knowledge. That way, Trey Lance can receive it too.
Yeah, it's an interesting parallel that he makes between Lance and Trubisky and Wentz. Like Wentz had to prove that he was worthy of replacing Foles after Foles won a Super Bowl. That was hard. And any mistake that Wentz made was magnified because of that. Same thing with Trubisky. Like, he actually was successful for a Bears quarterback. They all lose. But he got drafted before Mahomes, so he needed to, like, prove that he was worthy of that, and he couldn't, and he became a punchline. So, I mean, Lance is like extra pressure on Lance. It's not just a team drafted you. It's they traded up, and you're replacing Jimmy Garoppolo, who won a lot. So if you don't win and you have good numbers, no one cares. There's a lot of pressure on Lance. And I think he understands it, and he's doing all the right things. But at a certain point, I think Steve's saying, dude, you got to not care the way Jimmy doesn't seem to care, because Alex Smith cared a lot.
And I think Trey Lance has that going for him already. You saw in his first, not even his first most of his press conferences already. You know, they try to hit him with the throwing motion, with his finger and stuff like that. Or when you asked him about like how do you feel, like you haven't even done anything, you're already getting like criticized, like you've been playing for like 10 years, and you're just like, you know, I was just talking to Pete over here, whatever, and he's just like, dude, like whatever. He's like, this guy is literally just head low, push forward. You gotta freaking love that, because you can get like some of these young players who are just gonna be so obsessed with it. He has teammates who are like that. So I mean, the fact that he's already, but when you're a quarterback, you definitely cannot give an ounce of attention to that. So already so far, without starting the game, he's on the money, A+. But it's gonna be interesting how he's gonna really react when the season comes, and you know, when the walls are closing in on him, and seeing how he reacts. Like, God forbid he's playing terribly, or there's a losing streak. However, you know, you want to take it. That's where I really want to see how he's really going to react. Like, is he going to feel in a corner where he starts to force it like a perfectionist? Right. Is he going to start to care? That's where I think it's really going to have to play out for him, and how he's really going to have to really polish it down, and hopefully he doesn't reach into that perfectionist zone.
Yeah, maybe Trey should have a conversation with Alex Smith, because Alex Smith probably would talk to him. And Alex Smith is like the king of being able to talk about adversity among quarterbacks. Now, Trey, it's like Alex Smith had a ton of adversity early in his career. He didn't handle it particularly well until Harbaugh got here. Got benched a lot of times. Trey's not in that position. He's not getting a new offensive coordinator. Well, he's not getting a new coach every year. He does have a new offensive coordinator, but it's Kyle. And what else? I mean, he's got a good team around him. Alex Smith didn't have a good team around him until he was like 27, 28. So I think that, you know, even if he is just like a more physically gifted Alex Smith, he should have a lot of success, even if he's not necessarily like a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah, it's all going to be like a telltale sign, right? Just see how he handles it. But I think that's also a little bit why you also have like, you want to have like the good talent that he has around him to make sure it's all, you know, he doesn't have to feel that pressure. And the way they uplifted Jimmy throughout the years, you'd expect that they have his back too if he ever finds himself in that pit.
It's going to be interesting to see how fans react from going from Jimmy Garoppolo to back to a very cautious quarterback, potentially like Alex. Because if you remember, fans were freaking tired of Alex Smith at the end.
Yes.
Tired of him. And even though like
car, car came out.
He would, like, make the right decisions a lot of the time, like he was boring. He wouldn't throw deep. He wouldn't throw it. He wouldn't make plays. He just kept checking down. Even on third down, he would check down. And what some people like about Jimmy is he's this YOLO attitude. It's 3rd and 7. I'm throwing 1 yard past the marker, no matter how many linebackers are waiting for the ball. I'm throwing it. You know what I'm saying? And I think people are tired of that too. But at a certain point, if Trey's not elite, people are going to use his cautiousness against him. And you'll see it on 3rd down. Like, oh, the guy was open. Trey didn't throw it. Why? Jimmy would have. I mean, you know, the window wasn't that big. I don't want to throw picks. That was his. If you look at Trey's numbers in college and Alex Smith's numbers in college, they're similar. Neither one threw picks. It was part of their whole thing coming into the league. And then Alex Smith started throwing hella picks. Anyway, I think it's interesting. Steve Young, like, really doesn't hand out praise for quarterbacks very much, because he was one of the best ever. And he's looking at Trey like, yeah.
And he's really necessary right now for, like you said, the national media, the way they just like sideball this guy, like lowball Trey Lance to Kingdom Come. It's really like a balance, because most of the voices who are saying it are in the masses, but it's not heavily weighted compared to like you have a Hall of Fame freaking quarterback like Steve Young. So that's really needed, in my opinion. They really needed that someone to really balance the scales, because it's really getting annoying. Like I said, like you get the arm, we just talked about last week, the arm fatigue. Like, come on, can we get someone who's going to say something nice about him other than just like people like us who are trying to actually give him a chance?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we got a question from Irfan Mirza. It says PFF released their 30 to 26 best players in the league. They have Debo at 28, Bosa at 26. Thoughts?
I saw that.
Interesting.
Yeah, the Bosa thing. The Debo thing was ridiculous. How did you not have him as like a top 10 player? I don't get it. Bosa 26 seems right, I think. But Debo, I think at least top 10. I won't go top 5, but top 10. I probably put him like an 8 or 9. Like 26, 28 feels so far away.
The thing with Debo is like, I think it's fair to say he's not a top 5 wide receiver because that's a specific position.
Yes.
But if you take position out of it and just say skill position players, athletes at skill positions, he might be the most athletic skill position player in football. Like, is Jamar Chase more athletic than Debo? I mean, Jamar Chase can't play running back. DK Metcalf can't play running back. I mean, Debo's like a top 10 player at 2 positions. I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, I feel like Debo has an argument to be higher. Although, look, with both of these guys, if you're judging it just on their career and not just last season, they have a little bit to prove still.
Yeah.
I mean, they've had injuries. They're pretty young. I mean, maybe it seems like both of their stock is climbing. They could be top 10 guys in a year or two.
Yeah, this was career. I like the rankings, but based off last year, you got to put Debo higher. I mean, how can you not think of like top 10 best players who were just like balling out and beasting and not think of Debo Samuel? Bosa's fine where he's at right there, career and last season. Last season, Debo higher. Career, maybe Debo right there is where he's at. I think that feels fine to me. I have no qualms about that.
To me, I feel like, I mean, if you're doing like how good are they right now, not taking into account resume, that's like a Madden rating. That's like a Madden rating. He'd be higher. I think he's in the 80s in Madden.
I get people pissed off in Madden ratings again.
How is he an 89, but Christian McCaffrey's a 90?
Dude, they don't pay attention. Yeah, that was kind of stupid. Like, as someone who's a Christian McCaffrey fan, I've been drafting him top pick last 2 years. Like, he's pissed me off. It's like, you can't put him top 5 over Jonathan Taylor too. What are we doing? I don't know. There's a bunch of nerds that don't pay attention to the game. They only pay attention to FIFA. As someone who plays FIFA all the time and not Madden anymore, like, they only pay attention to that. And even that's a little bit janky.
A little bit janky. Matthew Sanders says 3rd and long defense blitzes. Trey sheds the hot blitzer, boots out, looks downfield, finds a receiver, and hits for 20 yards. Jimmy has never done that.
Because he can't.
Certainly. But what about when it's 3rd and long and the defense just plays zone? And, Trey has to hit the guy on time past the, like, can you do it? Probably. But that was a problem with Alex Smith. Alex Smith there would be open windows and he wouldn't pull the trigger. At least earlier in his career. I mean, really his whole career. He was very, very cautious. But to me, like, not turning the ball over is probably more important and conducive to winning than those 1 or 2 extra 3rd downs you're going to get a game. Because in trying to get those 3rd downs, you're going to throw a pick. And then they're not going to trust you to throw the ball. So I don't know.
That's going to be test
I think
number
Alex Smith
was
better than Jimmy Garoppolo. Peak Alex.
Yeah, that's about to be test number 1 for him last week. We hit that one about talking about what he really going to have to see in terms of the offense. And yeah, it's definitely going to be about Kyle. If Kyle likes the way he's throwing, then he's going to trust him more. And if he starts, fails with a couple of passes, then we're not going to see him do that too much anymore.